Hello, and a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are around the world, and welcome to today's Postgrad Insight session. I'm Gareth Driscoll. I'm joined today by the University of Liverpool, who are going to be talking about their online psychology program specifically. Now, today's session is live. If you have any questions or issues or concerns, you can always email Gareth at postgradsolutions.com or webinars at postgradsolutions.com also. But because it is live and you have the Zoom functionality, you do have the chat and you got the Q&A facility also. So please pop any questions you want in that Q&A facility. We will have a Q&A towards the end. We'll endeavour to answer any questions that you have, any concerns or any problems that you might have, pop it in. Or if you want to say hi from wherever you're from, please pop in the chat wherever you're from and hi, and we'll try and answer you guys. I'm joined by Ben Piper today, and we're also joined by three other colleagues of his also. Ben, I'd like to hand over to you at this point. We'll be back for the Q&A towards the end, and any problems, let us know.
That's great. Thank you for the introduction, Gareth, and hello everybody joining us today. So yes, thank you for joining the University of Liverpool webinar, where we're today looking at the online psychology programs. Just to introduce the speakers who are joining me on the webinar today, we have Dr. Victoria Vass, our Director of Online Studies in Psychology from the University of Liverpool. We're also joined by Dr. Sarah Thurgood and also Ruth Lidgey from our admissions team. In terms of the agenda for today's webinar, we'll give an introduction to the University of Liverpool and the online psychology programs. There'll be quite a bit of time where Victoria and Sarah will talk in depth about each of the online psychology programs we offer. And then I'm going to be passing over to Ruth, who will be talking about the admissions and enrolment process. And as Gareth mentioned at the top of this session, there's plenty of time for questions and answers. Please do put those in the chat as we're going along. We'll have plenty of time towards the end of this session to address those questions and take some live if they come through at that point as well. In terms of the University of Liverpool, just to get a bit of background to the institution, the university is the original red brick university, we like to say. It was founded in 1881 and is a founder member of the UK's Russell Group. This is a group of 24 leading UK universities who are very much leading the way in terms of research, and they're very well respected in the UK and internationally as well. Liverpool is associated with 9 Nobel Laureates and is regularly ranked in the top 200 universities worldwide. The university has a great number of international students studying both on campus and online. There are currently over 7,000 international students on campus, and online it is a high proportion who do study from around the world in addition to the UK. As you can imagine, our courses are available online to anybody with an internet connection. So we do have a very large cohort of international students studying the psychology programs. Since the year 2000, we've had 20,000 online graduates. So the university is very, very well established in terms of online learning. 25 years that we've been delivering online programs here at the University of Liverpool. We have a significant alumni network, 270,000 alumni from 187 countries around the world. And in terms of online, we were rated gold, the highest rating in the Times Higher Education Online Learning Rankings 2024. So a very highly respected UK university, very well ranked internationally, a great track record of online programs in terms of delivery and student success as well, with over 20,000 online graduates since the year 2000. And coming to this slide about the online programs specifically, the courses are studied on a part-time basis. They're designed to be flexible around your work and other commitments. It's completely online. There's no need to attend a classroom. They're delivered just fully through our virtual learning platform. There's very high quality teaching and academic support and student support provided around the programs as well. And there's also a very, very strong community of learning. Victoria and Sarah, I think you'll be talking about this in some detail next, but I'm supposed to stress at this point, the courses very much are designed with online first. It's not like we've taken a campus program and then tried to distill that down and try to make it fit into the online environment. They're very much designed with the online student in mind. The learning platform is accessible across multiple devices, anywhere with an internet connection. And we've really tried to provide a great deal of academic support and student support around the programs to set the students up for success, no matter sort of where you are in the world. It is available, to you 24/7 in terms of that learning platform. So just a bit of background to the university and online, but I suppose now into the meat of today's webinar, and I'm going to hand across to Dr. Victoria Vass, who's going to go into an overview of the 3 online psychology programs that we offer here at the university. Victoria, I think you've put your camera on and your microphone on. I'll pass over to you and just mute myself whilst you take over from this slide.
Thanks
and do say next slide, Ben, when you would like the next one.
I will do. Thank you. Thanks very much, Ben. And thank you to everyone for taking the time to join us this morning. Welcome. We're really pleased to have you here with us today and to be able to tell you about our programmes. Ben's absolutely right. These have been a labour of love. They've completely been constructed with the aim of online learners in mind. So these aren't courses that have been translated from campus into online learning. These have been designed from the outset for online learners using a different structure, some of which I'll talk you through in a moment. We offer 3 different psychology programs for online study at the University of Liverpool. We have our mental health psychology MSc, organisational and business psychology MSc, and our psychology conversion MSc. These 3 psychology programs all offer students different approaches to this dynamic and popular topic. We also, as well as the master's level programs, offer associated postgraduate certificates, diplomas and awards, each of which have different credit values, which again, I'll talk you through in a few moments. Now, the first 4 modules of all programs are the same, so that you all have the same foundational learning. This also does give you some flexibility in choosing your study options later on, whether that's to advance potentially from a postgraduate award or certificate into a higher level of study. You don't necessarily have to know that you want to be studying a master's level program from the outset. You can choose to take one of the smaller awards, an award, a certificate or diploma, and decide whether you want to progress once you've had a taste of the online learning environment. And this can be particularly useful for people who may have been out of study for a period of time, for example. All of our programs are designed with the different backgrounds of online learners in mind. We appreciate that we have a very diverse body of learners. We have some people who have studied psychology before in the past, and some people who haven't studied psychology before in the past, but have a personal interest in it. And we have deliberately designed our programs so that they use a scaffolding approach whereby you're learning the foundations and building and advancing on them as you progress through the program. So it's not essential to have a psychology background previously or to have a pre-existing degree in psychology in order to study psychology at master's level. A key difference that we want to highlight is the accreditation. So the Psychology Conversion Programme is an accredited programme by the British Psychological Society. That means that students can register for the graduate basis of chartership with the British Psychological Society after studying, which is important for some people depending on what they'd like to do with their degree afterwards. So potentially if you were thinking about moving on to do a PhD, a professional doctorate, such as studying to be a clinical psychologist, an educational psychologist. In the UK, it would be a requirement that you have a British Psychological Society accredited degree to enable you to progress towards that. That's not essential for everybody, but it is a really good marker of the quality of our programs. And in terms of the psychology conversion, it's also indicative of the fact that this covers all of the core areas of psychology that are considered most important. So you know that you're getting a good grounding in all of the key areas of psychology and creating that basis of knowledge in terms of psychological theory and application. The mental health psychology and organizational and business psychology programs are not accredited. We've not pursued accreditation for these programs. Instead, we've decided to create specialised programmes that may be of more interest to those who have a particular interest in a specialised field, such as mental health, We have a lot of people that already work in mental health who want to advance some of their knowledge and apply some of their experiences into the learning context from the mental health field, or who are thinking about working in mental health in future. And similarly, organisational and business psychology, this is a specialised programme with strong applications to the business field, people working in human relations, and people working in organisations and workforces. We'll talk a little bit more about each of these now in more detail. Could I have the next slide, please, Ben? So, as I mentioned before, our MSc Psychology Conversion Programme is our BPS, British Psychological Society accredited conversion programme, and it's designed to provide you with a comprehensive understanding of the core areas of psychology, particularly biological, developmental, cognitive, and social psychology. Importantly, you'll also learn how to put psychological principles into effect in a variety of settings, including research, practice, and the interface of applied research, all of the places in which we see psychology in action in the real world around us. Now, the conversion programme can be particularly appealing for students who have never had any background in psychology, because it can be a good option for people who are thinking about changing degrees and are moving towards something more psychology orientated. So as I mentioned before, it provides the first step on the professional pathway to becoming a registered psychologist in the UK, if that's something that you're thinking about in terms of your future career plans. It gives a very comprehensive grounding of the key areas of psychology. And you can apply for that graduate basis for chartered membership with the British Psychological Society, which, as I say, isn't important for all students, depending on which parts of the world you're studying in or what your career aims necessarily are. But it is also a really useful marker of the quality of our programmes. The accreditation process is very rigorous. It's taken a lot of work, and it means that we have to align to the high standards that are set out by that organising body. We cover a huge range of key areas in psychology, which I'll talk through on the modules on the next slide, please. So this is the structure of the MSc Psychology programme. Now, the top line that you'll see on each of the different programme structures is the same for all programmes. So we share 4 core modules. This has the shared benefit of meaning that you can engage with students from the other programmes, as well as you may be sharing classes on the first 4 modules. So being able to share in that experience is a really important part of online learning, the building that community and learning from each other's experiences, that peer-to-peer learning, because everybody on the online programs comes from really different walks of life, and it makes it a really rich learning environment. All students will begin with a 2-week induction. That's to help you get familiar with the learning platform, familiar with some of the basic academic principles that will be integral to your work. So things like academic integrity, how to avoid plagiarism, key things around sort of writing for psychology, searching for information to support your assignments, and so on. And after the induction, you'll move into the modules, the taught modules of the programme. Each module runs for 8 weeks. And the first 4 modules of each programme are the same. So these are mind, brain, and behaviour, where we cover basic concepts of psychology. So the different approaches used in psychology, the key different theoretical approaches within psychology. We talk about some of the key debates in psychology. We discuss the value of psychology as a science and some of the scientific application of psychology, and how this integrates with research in psychology, which is a particularly important aspect of what psychologists do. In the second module, social psychology, very much as it sounds, we're looking at social relationships. So you're looking at intergroup and intragroup dynamics. So this can be things like conflict, aggression, romantic relationships. looking at people's attitudes and how they're formed. So lots of different aspects of our social world and how they are understood by psychologists. And also integrated within this module, we begin your qualitative research methods training. So these are research methods that focus on words, interviews, and words as data, as opposed to numerical data. So we begin that training in the social psychology module, and the research methods training is scaffolded throughout every single module so that you get to apply it in context and think about how research is actually working to inform your ideas, and how you as a psychologist can develop your own research to find out more about the ideas that you have and the theories that you have about why you may be seeing a particular human behavior. After our social psychology module, all students will complete the data analysis for psychology module, and this focuses more on statistics. So how to understand statistics, how to apply statistics, and how to conduct your own analysis. So this isn't the only module in which you'll learn this, but this is the foundation module. There is no issue at all if you have not studied statistics before. And from a personal perspective, I would say maths was never my strong point in school, but statistics is different for a lot of people. I did not do well at maths, but I was good at statistics. There's something very different about it in the fact that it's applied. It's something that actually we engage with all the time. Every time you open a newspaper or open the news app on your phone, you are being presented with statistics. They are something that we encounter every day. And it's really useful to actually understand how they can be sometimes distorted to actually create a different message, how data is not necessarily always straightforward. And we're really keen on that critical approach at Liverpool in terms of teaching psychology, actually interrogating data that we're presented with and thinking critically about whether we're getting a clear understanding of something. After our data analysis psychology module, you'll move on to focus on personality, individual differences, and intelligence. I suppose the name's pretty much on the tin with this one, but focusing on different models and understandings of personality, different personality traits and how they can have an influence. This, of course, builds the foundation for some of the more advanced modules that you'll be looking at later in any of the programs. For example, latterly, you'll be applying understanding of personality to things like what makes a good leader in the organizational and business psychology course, or what kinds of factors may make it prohibitive for people to engage with therapy looking at mental health studies. Individual differences, so looking at what we consider to be normative behavior or differential behavior. And models of intelligence and how we might test intelligence. Really interesting and rich module that I think a lot of students really enjoy. The advanced modules on the MSc Psychology programme start with cross-cultural lifespan development. So this is developmental psychology. So looking at change across the lifespan. So that's everything from how we develop morality, how we develop our understandings of right and wrong from parents and caregivers, the relationships between infants, children, and their caregivers, right the way through to later in the lifespan, the development of relationships in adulthood, how that can be different to friendship formation in childhood, and moving latterly towards the end of the lifespan, looking at critical factors in aging and issues that can be experienced during that part of the lifespan. And we look at this particularly through a cross-cultural lens to look at how these concepts differ widely around the world. And one of the amazing things about the online program is really the rich experiences that you as students bring into the program. Your own personal reflections are something that we really ask you to bring into the program. You'll all have very different experiences. We have students studying in over 100 countries worldwide on the online programs, and that brings some really rich content into the program through peer-to-peer learning, as well as the taught materials that you have. The sixth module in the program is psychology of learning. So reflecting on the different factors that facilitate learning or provide barriers to learning, different models of how we learn and how we can apply these in different contexts to benefit others. You'll then move on to cognitive psychology, which is really looking at neurology, brain structure, but also looking particularly at experimental psychology, lab-based experiments, which we can now do in the online environment as well. So looking at things like memory, learning, building on the psychology of learning, how, how we, the differences in terms of short-term memory, long-term memory, how we process information. Looking at a lot of these different cognitive processes, the different ways in which we think and the different parts of the brain that are responsible for that. You then build on that further in psychobiology, which looks more at neural structure and neurotransmitters, and applies these to different areas. So things like how we might use pharmacological drugs to treat certain health experiences and mental health experiences, but also how they affect things like sleep, for example. So moving into psychobiology there for the final module. Students who intend to take the full master's programme will then move from the taught modules into our dissertation module. The dissertation module is not 8 weeks, as you might imagine, but spans over several months. And all students intending to go for the full master's level award will take a dissertation. In terms of the dissertation, you'll be given a dissertation advisor who will help you develop your dissertation ideas, which hopefully is something that you'll have built up throughout the programme, something that you've found particularly interesting and really want to conduct your own study on. Again, this is an intrinsic part of the BPS accreditation. All students who have a BPS accreditation need to have completed a piece of empirical research. So a piece of research where you've got data, you've analysed it yourself, and you've written up the findings. So carrying out your own psychology study. And it's a really rewarding part of the programme. For each master's level programme, students have to come up with an idea that reflects the program that they're studying. So on the MSc psychology program, you've got quite a broad range of different topics that you might bring into your dissertation, and that's certainly true for the other programs too. But with the organizational and business psychology program, then the dissertation has to focus somewhat on organizational and business psychology. There have to be strong links to that, and the same for the mental health psychology program, to help show your expertise in those areas that you've developed through the program. So all students will take the dissertation module who intend to go for the full award. We'll talk about the other awards, the certificates and diplomas, and the structure of those and how they differ a little bit later. Could we have the next slide, please? The MSc Organisational and Business Psychology is really aimed at helping you develop critical awareness and application of psychological theory and principles to a range of real-world workplace and organisational settings. A lot of people on this programme are coming either from the perspective of the view of running their own business or working in a large organisation already and bringing some of their experiences across from that. So these skills and the developed understanding that students get from the programme are aimed to help you enhance modern day organisational effectiveness and support employee well-being. The programme covers key areas such as leadership, coaching, organisational change and talent management, and thinking about how these apply in different types of organisational settings. So it's really designed for individuals who want to understand how psychological approaches can be used to enhance and facilitate the workplace and employees within the workplace. Next slide, please. As you can see, the structure is the same for the induction and the first 4 modules, so I won't repeat those again, but going through mind, brain and behaviour, social psychology, data analysis for psychology, personality, individual differences and intelligence are 4 core modules which give you those really important foundational principles in key areas of psychology, which we think are important for students on all programmes. You'll then move into the specialised modules. So for the organisational and business psychology programme, the first of the specialised modules is evidence-based coaching. So this is really around coaching technique, how we can encourage the best out of people, how we can set goals, how we can enhance performance, and develop our own skills and the skills of others. So we start off with evidence-based coaching. We move through into inspiring others, the psychology of leadership. So considering from a psychological perspective, different styles and forms of leadership, where these might be most useful, and things that can be barriers in terms of leadership and how we might overcome those. So what makes an effective leader, and really reflecting on some of those concepts and what the psychological literature can tell us about that. We then move on to global talent management. So thinking cross-culturally, how we can best manage employees and talent. So from considerations with recruitment to creating a balanced workforce, and how we manage the talent that we might be in charge of or taking responsibility for in the workplace. And then organisational development and change. So thinking longer term, how organisations might change over time, whether that be upscaling, downsizing, and how we can support employees through those types of change, what kind of factors might affect change in an organisation, and how we can encourage development in organisations to improve, expand, and so on. Again, students intending to take the master's level award will move on to the dissertation module at that point and do a focused dissertation that relates to organisations, business, and the workplace. Next slide, please. Our third course is the MSc Mental Health Psychology programme. And this dedicated programme will help guide students' careers into the mental health field, providing with key knowledge and foundations of general psychology, as well as key significant areas of mental health. So the aim of the programme is to help you be able to evaluate patterns in behaviour and psychological functioning. And to help you recognise the best psychological approaches in relation to these issues. Can we move on to the next slide, please? So we cover several key areas on this programme. We have the same 4 core modules and the induction, but we also cover a range of different approaches to mental health. So in terms of the specialised module approaches to mental health, we're looking at different theoretical approaches, different perspectives, and different ways in which we might think about mental health and how they might apply then to different ways in which we might consider treatment or consider mental health in terms of its impacts. So we have numerous different competing perspectives. So cognitive approaches, thinking more about taking more of a behavioural stance. We have things, very biological approaches, thinking more about the pharmacological way of treating mental health, for example. Thinking more about neurology, neurotransmitters, brain structure. But we also have competing approaches, humanistic approaches, that are looking much more at the person as an individual and their capacity to flourish and grow. So there are lots of different approaches to mental health which can shape how practitioners might move forward in their own careers and how they might approach different interventions and support for the clients that they encounter in their work. So approaches to mental health really starts with exploring some of those different approaches and looking at them from a critical perspective to help consider which might feel right for us in our own mental health work. Psych 313, psychotherapeutic interventions, then builds on this, looking at some of the different specific interventions that might be available to individuals depending on what they're experiencing. And we particularly focus on evidence-based approaches. So how we look for evidence-based interventions and treatments for mental health care, and some of the difficulties in how that might be determined, because that is certainly something that's more complex than we might find with some physical conditions. So a really interesting module exploring different psychotherapeutic interventions and approaches to care. In Psych 305, we move through to psychological appraisal and treatment. So thinking very much about how we might evaluate somebody's mental health difficulties, how we might determine what's going on for somebody, and how this might lead into a formulation or treatment plan. So how we identify the key factors, looking at co-collaboration with clients, looking at psychological formulation, looking at issues with diagnosis. And diagnostic tools, so critically considering some of the challenges that we might encounter with those. So again, a really interesting module. And then in the final module, you'll focus specifically on cognitive behavioral therapy as one of the most highly utilized psychological therapies worldwide. So we have a specific module developed on cognitive behavioral therapy, developed by a colleague of mine who is a clinical psychologist who's working daily with cognitive behavioral therapy in the NHS, and teaching you some of the foundational principles of how we understand cognitive behavioral therapy to work, how it might be applied in different contexts, and some of the tools and techniques that we use in that approach to support people's well-being and mental health. Students going for the full master's level award will then commence dissertation. As I say, this is something that takes place over a period of months, and you'll have a dissertation advisor. And for students on this programme, you will focus your dissertation on something aligned to mental health and well-being to align with your programme. Next slide, please. In terms of the target awards, not all students will go for the full level master's award, and it's not something that you have to know from the moment you put your foot in the door. Sorry, the chat came up at the same time then. So, the moment that you start with us, you don't necessarily have to be certain that you're going to go for the full masters. It may be that you decide you want to dip your toe in and start off with the PG Cert or the PG Dip, and then decide as you progress through the programme if you would like to transfer onto the full master's programme. Some of our students choose to do this. Some know from the outset that they'd like the full master's award, and that's the structure that we've just talked through. So 180 credits, so 8 15-credit modules, the modules that we've just talked through. So those 4 core modules plus 4 specialised advanced modules, plus the dissertation module. For students who want to go for the postgraduate diploma in any of the different areas, whether that's psychology, mental health, organisational and business psychology, you'll only complete the 8 taught modules, and then you'll choose not to complete the dissertation, and that will give you a postgraduate diploma worth 120 credits. And some students opt to take the postgraduate certificate, so postgraduate certificate in psychology, postgraduate certificate in mental health, or postgraduate certificate in organisational and business psychology. And these comprise of just taking the 4 modules worth 60 credits. Now, for the specifics of the different module combinations and so on with these, you can talk to our admissions team. And they'll be able to tell you the different requirements for each of those. I'm going to hand over to my colleague Sarah now, who's going to talk you through what are virtual learning environments like, and the kind of learning materials you'll have and the kind of assessments that you'll have on the programme. But if you do have any questions, please do feel free to pop them in the Q&A or in the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Victoria. That was a really, really interesting introduction to all our very exciting psychology programmes. If we could move on to the next slide, please, and I will talk you through some of the learning materials that we have if you were to join our programmes. So, as we mentioned a bit earlier on, we have designed our learning materials in mind of the learners that we have, so people who have got busy lives, possibly caring or other work commitments, and that are primarily wanting to study online because it fits into their lives a little bit easier. So we have designed our learning materials to be really complementary of those kind of lifestyles. So our programs use a variety of interactive and engaging learning materials to enhance your understanding and application of psychology. And I'm just going to talk you through just a few of our key ones at the moment. But obviously, if you were to join the programs, you'll see some of the other things that we do. So one of our main methods of learning is our lecture casts. And these are pre-recorded video lectures that provide in-depth explanations of key concepts and allow you to learn at your own pace. So within the lecture casts, there are small pieces of reading or small videos to watch, but you can really chunk those how you like. So if you've only got 10 minutes, you could come and have a look at a couple of videos and then come back to it another time. If you had an hour, you might be able to finish the whole lecture cast. But the idea is that that is under your control. So the materials are all ready for you. You don't need to attend a lecture at any set time. The lecture casts are ready when you join the module and you just work through those at your own pace. So that can fit in with all your other responsibilities. We provide reading materials. So often this will be categorized as suggested reading or recommended reading. So it will help you to decide on how to prioritize your time. These come from things like academic texts, journal articles, and various other essential readings. And these are there to really deepen your theoretical knowledge on the topics that will be covered within the lecture cast and other types of materials within the module. We also provide something called a TALIS reading list. And this is where we've pre-populated the reading list for each of your modules. And you're able to simply type in the module code and it'll bring you up all the module reading for that particular module. And what it does then is it provides you a really simple link straight through to the university library where you can get access directly to those sources. So you do need to do your own reading and searching for additional sources, but we provide you with something just to get you started and a very simple link through to the university library where you can access those directly. So that's a really, really helpful way of getting you started with your studies. And as you get more confident, you'll be able to use some of the search methods and things that we provide via the library to allow you to develop your wider reading and evidence base. We also have lots of practical activities throughout the modules as well. So that could be anything from creating group presentations. It could be working on a news article and having a look at the psychological impacts of those. But we do lots of sort of hands-on exercises that are really designed to apply your psychological principles that you learn on the course into real life or real world scenarios. So we want you to be able to apply your knowledge and experience from the course directly to your workplace or to something that's happening topically around the world. We have things like blog posts, which are there to help you to encourage a discussion, to encourage that critical thinking and engagement with different contemporary psychological topics. And something that Victoria mentioned earlier about the students bringing their background to those discussions is really key here, because people coming from across different cultures, from across different places around the world, it all adds to that discussion and makes it a really valuable discussion that has lots and lots of different perspectives. And I think that's an excellent thing that our online courses can provide, is that cross-cultural, worldwide reach where you can all get together and listen to other people's perspectives. We have little things like quizzes and tests just to track your knowledge and just to give you a little bit of, this is where I'm at right now, and oh, I didn't get that right, maybe I need to go back and have a look at that material there. So it's to help you sort of reinforce your learning and track your progress as well. But sometimes these are a little bit of fun, just to see what you've learned from the information that you've been looking through in maybe a lecture cast. But basically, these resources ensure that you have got a comprehensive and flexible learning experience that's really key to online learners. And this supports you in developing both your theoretical and practical skills. So I'm just going to move to the next slide where we talk a little bit more around the assessments that we offer. So the first thing to say, we don't have any exams. So everything is assessment based. And I think that's a real key point of our online programs, that you wouldn't have to sit an exam. Because not everybody likes exams, and sometimes it can not always bring the best out in people. So instead, we offer a range of assessments, and I've just got a few here just to, I like the comment there. Yay, no exams. I know. That's why I had to tell you first. So yes, we have a mixture of assessment types, because again, we're recognizing that if you did an essay for every student, you might not like an essay format. So we have lots of different types of assessments. So I'm just going to talk through some of our main ones here that you might see more regularly. So we have discussion forums, and that's great because you get to have a discussion with your peers on the course. The structure of those is usually that there's an initial post where you're asked to respond to a question, and then each of the students will do their initial post, and then there'll be two follow-up posts where students will comment on other students' posts. So you get that real academic, you get that sort of worldwide perspective building in there as well. So that's a really great way of having that critical discussion with your peers. Your lecturers are there involved in that as well. That helps you to apply psychological theories to real world issues. And they tend to happen in most modules where you'll be having a discussion with your peers on your course. Then we have things like reflective logs. So this will be where we'll ask you to reflect on your module maybe at the end. So you're thinking about what did you learn, what did you experience, and those kind of things. This helps to develop self-awareness and professional insight by reflecting on your learning and your experiences. And in some of our modules, we have things like group presentations. So this will allow you to work with other students towards a common goal, which is the final group presentation. There is some challenges around this, working across time zones, working with people on different schedules. But we think that this helps people to strengthen their working relationships and how to learn to work with other types of people. We do have essays, standard kind of essays, where you'll be required to answer an essay style question. So those are common across our modules. And we do have data analysis tasks throughout the modules just to help you to apply your statistical and research method skills. And this will be to help you to analyze psychological data and interpret findings, which are really excellent skills for psychology students to learn through their masters. So we do offer a diverse range of assessments, and this helps to ensure that you develop a well-rounded skill set, which is set to prepare you for academic and professional success. So I hope that's been interesting, just listening to some of the learning materials that we have and how you engage as an online learner and what will be available on our virtual learning environment when you start your module, but also to give you an idea around some of the assessments and the way that you will be assessed throughout the course, just making sure that you remember the key thing is that there is no exams, but there's a variety of assessment methods there. And when you join the module, we actually have a deadline details page, which you can click on, and it's a new one per module, and it'll show you exactly which assessments are due in that module, and it'll tell you what the weighting is, and all the assessment instructions are linked there too, so you'll know word counts, the essay questions, and all the associated information. So I think that's really helpful that you can get that information from when you start the module, and you can time manage and plan for your assessments. So that's the end of my section just on learning materials and the assessments. I think we're moving across to Ruth at admissions next. So thank you very much for listening, and I'm happy to take any questions at the end in the Q&A.
Thanks, Sarah. So hi, I'm Ruth. I'm one of the admissions members for the University of Liverpool online programs. And today I'm just going to be going through the next few slides and talking through the steps required when you first make to submitting an application and then going on to enroll onto a program. So if I could have the first slide, please. So once you're ready to submit an application with us, you can do this via our website. using the link on this slide, and that link will be on each of the programme pages on our website as well. It's quite a simple form to complete, and you'll be asked to provide some supporting documentation when you're filling in the form. So we'll need a form of photo ID, so your passport or driving licence, just something that's within date, has your full legal name and date of birth. We'll need an up-to-date copy of your CV. We'll need copies of your previous degree certificates and transcripts. And if those aren't already in English, we will need translations as well. So they can either be provided by your previous university, or they would need to be professionally translated. We'll need a personal statement of around 300 to 500 words, just why you want to study, the previous experience you have that's relevant to the programme, and then future plans or goals you hope to achieve after completing the programme. And then finally, for international applicants, we will need evidence of English language proficiency. So this can be in the traditional form of IELTS or TOEFL, as long as the test was taken in the last 2 years. If your previous degree was studied in English, then we could accept a medium of instruction letter from your previous university just to confirm that the whole programme was taught in English. Or as a backup, we do have our own free online English test called KTE. So once you've submitted an application with us, we can then set you up to complete that test if you don't have any English language evidence to provide. And if I could just have the next slide, please. So the admissions process usually begins when you submit an inquiry about one of our programmes. Once you've submitted the inquiry, you'll be assigned a dedicated admissions advisor who will answer any questions you have about the course or the process, and just make sure that you're completely happy before submitting an application form. And that admissions advisor who is assigned to you will be there for you throughout the whole process, all the way to enrolment. So even once you've submitted an application, you'll have the same person to speak to who knows your case, and you'll feel comfortable speaking with the same person. So once you've submitted the application, it's completely free to apply, and as I've mentioned previously, you can do that just directly on our website. Once we've received that and all the documents have been received and reviewed by the admissions team, we'll then submit your application for formal review, which can take up to 10 working days, but we do usually try and process them as quickly as possible, and it can be that we get back to you with an outcome within just a couple of days. And then if the outcome is successful, you'll be notified by your admissions advisor with the good news, and they'll send you an offer letter with a personalised payment plan showing a breakdown of the costs and any scholarships you have that have been applied, and a study plan as well. And then once you've received the offer, you'll just need to submit an acceptance form online and make a deposit payment of 1 monthly instalment to secure your place. So once those steps have been confirmed, we'll then process your enrolment, and that's everything needed to get started on the programme. And if I could have the next slide, please. So here you can see a breakdown of our tuition fees for this current academic year. So the tuition fees for our online programmes do differ depending on which award you're applying for. So if you're applying for the postgraduate certificate, which is 60 credits and the duration is 8 months, that will be £5,786. If you're applying for the postgraduate diploma, which is 120 credits and lasts for 16 months, that will be £11,572. And then finally, if you're going for the full Master's Award, that's 180 credits, will last for 24 months, so 2 years, and is £17,357. And the next slide, please. So we do, in terms of fees and funding, we do offer some regional scholarships of up to 20% just based on your country of residence. So it wouldn't be based on your nationality, it's just the country you're currently living in and will be living in when you complete the programme. If you'd like to know if you're eligible for a regional scholarship, make sure to get in touch with the admissions team and we can check that for you. We do also offer a 5% upfront discount for students who choose to pay the full amount upfront instead of paying in monthly instalments. So that can be applied on top of the regional scholarship as well if you choose to make the full payment upfront. And then finally, if you have studied with the university previously, we do have a 10% alumni discount, which could be applied to your tuition fees instead. And then if you do have any questions at all about the tuition fees, the programme or the application process, feel free to get in touch with the admissions team. We do have an intake coming up on the 13th of January and there are still places available. So it's still possible to apply for that. I would just recommend getting in touch with the admissions team as soon as possible to discuss the next steps. But after that, we do have intakes next year in March, May, July, September, and November. So there are plenty of opportunities for you to start throughout the year. And once you've applied for a particular start date, you can always change that if you need to. So you can defer your place even once you've received an offer. If your plans change or you want to start later in the year, that's absolutely fine. Just let us know. If you do need to get in touch with the admissions team, I believe our details are on the next slide. We have a link there, so you can contact us either by email, we have a live chat or WhatsApp service, a telephone number you can call as well, or you can submit a contact form online. Or if you are completely ready to apply, you can use that second link there just to submit an application form on our website. Thanks all for your time.
Ruth, thank you so much. At this stage, I'd like to welcome everyone back on. I think we're going to be taking some questions now, if that's okay. Ruth, can I just begin with you, just following on nicely from that slide, if that's okay? We saw the various different intake dates there, which is great. Not every institution offers that, which is fantastic. Is there a preference? Would you say, we saw January dates on there, we saw later on in the year. I know it's very flexible from what we just gathered, but is there a time that you go, it's probably best that you start then, or does it not matter at all?
It doesn't matter at all, really. It's completely, the student's preference as to when suits them, fits with, their other plans, work commitments, family life, that kind of thing. The programme will, start in exactly the same way. So as Victoria and Sarah have mentioned previously, you'd have an induction period of 2 weeks to start with. So that would be the same regardless of when you started. It's entirely up to the student, for their preference on when they want to start.
Great. Victoria, if I can come to you at this point, we heard in depth about the program, which is fantastic. Can you tell me more about the class sizes? Because obviously there'll be a lot of people that will turn around and say, I'm studying online, I lose the kind of personal aspect to it. But actually, one of the things that I gather from doing previous webinars and speaking from the team is that actually it's a very personal aspect to it. And actually, you probably get more support than you would
Yeah.
if you were on campus.
Yeah, I would say so. I think actually one of the individuals in the chat actually asked about how studying psychology online compares with on-campus learning, and this is one of the main things I would say. On campus, you would be in lectures of between, anything from 100 to 500 individuals, depending, thinking about our psychology department. So they're very big lectures. And, for some people that can feel impersonal. Some people enjoy that environment. For some people that can feel impersonal. What's different about studying online is that we have maximum class sizes of 20. So for each of the modules that you see, you're not all going to be studying as one huge group. You'll each be, there'll be our mind, brain and behavior module, and there might be 4 or 5 classes running of that, each with its own lecturer and a maximum of 20 students, sometimes fewer than that. So actually you get a more intimate experience in terms of that, of getting to know the people that you're in a class with through the discussion boards, for example, as Sarah said, through some of those group assignments. And you've got more of that personalized attention from your lecturer than you might have in an on-campus situation where you're sitting in large lecture theatres. So yeah, I would absolutely say that that's one of the benefits. It is different in that we're fully asynchronous. We've made this a design choice with the programmes, thinking about what it's like to learn online and the group of individuals that tend to choose to study online. We have a lot of people who have caring responsibilities, who have families at home, who maybe have dependents who require their support, people who are working full time, who choose to study online because it gives them full flexibility. And that's another key difference with studying on campus. On campus, if the lecture is 11 till 1, that is when you have to get there, regardless of whether that works with your childcare, regardless of that whether that works with your job. But online, because it's asynchronous, we don't have live sessions. The materials are all there. If you like to study at 4 in the morning, that is your optimal time for doing it, then you can do that. If you can only study on the weekends, if you can only study first thing in the morning, only on certain evenings after work, then the materials are always there. As soon as you're on that module, the materials are there, the readings are there, so that you can do it at your own pace when it suits you. And I think that's a really important thing that we've tried to facilitate into the programme, and is a key difference with studying on campus. And it's something that our learners really feel they benefit from, that full flexibility to fit it around their pre-existing engagements and commitments. So yeah, I would say that's one of the other key differences there, as well as that smaller class size, which we don't even have in UK schools these days, you know.
Well,
So
yeah,
I
of
mean,
course. Yeah,
yeah.
that was, I was going to touch upon that. And actually, Sarah, if I can come to you at this point, one of the key things I took from what Victoria mentioned there was how the programs are geared up and researched towards how the student wants to study at home or wherever they are. There are many universities now, and you'll know, Sarah, as well, that you go and study on campus, and actually 80% of your learning is online anyway, but they're not geared up towards learning, and the teaching online is not quite there. How important is that, Sarah, when it comes to, a student deciding to actually study online? There are a lot more flexibilities around it, but also the learning is actually better than what perhaps you could get on campus.
Yeah, because our online is truly online. We've developed
Yeah.
everything with online on on our mind, whereas sometimes the campus based might make something available online. We've developed all our materials with the specialist teams that are involved. So we've got learning technologists, we've got content developers, we've got people who are experts in online delivery, actually building, designing, and getting the things on the VLE. We also have the same team there that help us to keep the VLE working, so it's online and it's accessible. One of the key things I love about the online virtual learning environment is how quickly we can change things if there's a problem. So if there's a link that's broken or something's a textbook's out of date, we can change it pretty much instantly, and that really improves the student's experience, because issues like that, they don't hang around for 9 months while the module starts again the next year. We literally can change things so quickly in the online environment. And I think that's really good for students. We can be very responsive and supportive of their style of learning by making sure everything online is excellent. So we have things like the module structures are very similar across all the different modules, so students know where to find things. So from module to module, things will be in the same place. So you won't be looking, oh, where's that in module 2? It was there last time in module 1. Everything has been designed for ease. Accessibility reasons. We've got things like lecture casts and reading can be accessed on different devices. So that's excellent for people who might be on the go and want to read something on their tablet while they're on a commute and things like that. So we've got lots of different techniques where we're not just about placing content on an online space. Everything is developed for an online delivery. And I think that's very different to just putting things in an online folder. This is really expert stuff. And Victoria, you'll remember we got commended by the British Psychological Society for our virtual learning environment when they did
Yeah.
our accreditation visit. They were absolutely blown away by what we've achieved. So we're really proud of it, and it is definitely one of the key things about our course that sets us away from the sort of campus-based deliveries where they are trying to put things online, but this is something else. This is a completely different type of approach.
Yeah, and Victoria, if I can come back to you as again from a kind of student perspective, it would be very easy for people to just think psychology. Okay, I want to be a bit more specific. I heard someone talking the other day about parapsychology, and I'm thinking, what on earth is that? But actually, when you think about it, people at this stage of their careers and their life probably know specifically what they want to do. Within psychology, you're going to have loads of different little subsectors almost, aren't you, and different
Yeah.
interests. How important is that when it comes to actually a classroom size and getting different ideas and different thoughts that actually from all over the world rather than just in one classroom, that they can share that? And obviously, you can obviously from personal experience probably say, yeah, we've had that over the last few years.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the smaller groups encourages more interaction and means that you're more able to exchange some of those ideas and interests. Things like the discussion forums are structured deliberately in such a way that we ask you to share personal interests and experiences, life experiences, cultural experiences, to help enrich everybody's understanding of how those different experiences might interact and form our opinions and our understanding of different phenomena within psychology. And certainly, I think one of the places that really shines through is just the huge diversity we have in dissertations, and that individual research that students carry out at the end of the program. We have a huge range of projects that really reflect students' different interests and the expertise that they've developed across the program. From all sorts of things, we've had students doing projects on the benefits, psychological benefits of pet ownership, of utilizing yoga, of looking at different theoretical approaches of leadership applied in different kinds of workplaces. We've had people looking at different experiences of hearing voices and group support for that. And one of the most amazing things for me, one of the things I really do enjoy seeing is how many of our students actually pursue publication of their dissertation work as well. One of the things that Ben touched upon earlier is we are a Russell Group institution. That means that we are in the top 20 research producing institutes in the UK. So research is a huge part of what we do. And as psychologists, it's a huge part of what we do. Knowledge can't be seen as something that's fixed. It's something that continually evolves. And the fact that in psychology, you can be a part of that by conducting your own research, by extending our knowledge and understanding of the world of human interaction and behavior is an incredible thing. And the fact that you can apply your own interests in that. And actually, the wonderful thing about psychology is how broad it is because it applies to every strata of human life. And there's no part of it where we don't use psychology. So it's a fantastic subject to study in that respect. And it has so many applications. I noticed in the questions, people have asked about some of the kinds of different work that people go into after studying with us. And it's so broad, I wouldn't even know where to begin. We have so many people that are enthused and want to go into teaching, that go into organizational psychology as, focusing on occupational therapy, are utilizing their skills back in their own workplace, human resources. Some people do go into research, go and do PhDs. Some people go into clinical training. Mental health nursing and so on. They use it as a foundation to extend into that. The range of careers with psychology are huge because anywhere that you're working with people, psychology applies. So yeah.
Victoria, you're making me want to sign up. You're going to have to stop thinking. I've earmarked 3 questions I'm just conscious of time to those that are watching, and thank you for everyone for staying tuned. I really appreciate it. Again, Victoria, it might be yourself, Sarah. Feel free to come in if you want to. But one of the students has said, can you share any indication on the age demography of the online students? Now, one of the biggest changes that we've seen at postgrad.com is the introduction of the more mature student. And I think one of the things I gather from what you said so far over the last 60 minutes is the flexibility and what that gives you with different people's circumstances. Sarah, if I can come to you on this point, doesn't really matter what age you are, what circumstances you've got, does it? You can take this in the 8 weeks that you want to take it in.
Yeah, so we see students from across all different walks of life, to be quite honest. It's not typically obviously somebody who wants to go to campus every day. So that's a different type of university experience. But we see people doing all kinds of things. We've seen people who work as cabin crew, people who travel because they work with horses, and they can't sort of do that campus-based type study, but they want to still pursue some way of doing the psychology masters. Honestly, we've got all different types of people. We've got people who have, committed themselves to looking after their children, and then the children have gone to school and now they want to do something for themselves. We've got people working in organizations where they want to pursue bringing in psychology into the organization. They're just a few examples, but it's really, if you're interested in psychology and you think that this would work for you studying online, there's no sort of it's no set person. We're not looking for anybody particular. We're looking for people
Yeah.
interested in developing themselves and, learning more about psychology. And I think that's what everybody comes to this course with. They're often very nervous at the beginning when they're coming back to study, or if they've done study but not done it for a while. So we understand people are quite nervous at the beginning, but they quite quickly get used to things. And I think students really enjoy coming back to study. And we do support all our students with things like getting used to the virtual learning environment, getting back into studying. We've got loads of materials and support for that from the induction, the study skills team, the student support team. Everybody's there to help students to settle in. So yeah, we think it's for anybody who's interested in psychology, and I think that's the common thread that brings everybody together, regardless of the
Excellent.
background or age or location.
Okay, just one final point. Ruth, this might be for yourself, actually. Apologies. There's not been too many admission to these questions, so apologies. I'm going to come to you last. One of the questions that's come in is, how do online students connect and collaborate with fellow students or alumni globally? It's a great point, because obviously students that are obviously taking the program are probably better represented than anyone else to talk. So, what would you say to that student that's asked that?
I mean, Victoria and Sarah might be better suited to
Okay.
answer this. I'm not sure, but they did mention earlier there are the discussion forums on the platform. So I know there are obviously, subject related ones, but I believe there are social ones as well, for students to get in touch with, other students on different programs as well. So that's a way really for
Okay.
them to connect. Yeah.
And just to finish as well, students, we've seen the intake dates, we've seen how they can apply, ready to apply. How long does that process take? Because obviously there'll be students that'll go, I want to apply for January now. Are they too late, realistically, or does it literally, take week or two to get things all sorted?
It does entirely depend on the circumstances and the documents they have available. If they have everything that's needed for the application, it's a really quick process. And we do leave the application deadline open until the week before the start date. So it is completely possible to still apply for January, and get it turned around in time. I would just say, to bear in mind that, but as I mentioned earlier, to secure your place in the course, you would need to make a deposit payment. So as long as, they're completely able to do that in time, yeah, they can apply any time up until the week before the start date. There's still lots of time.
Superb, thank you. And thank you to all of you. Ben, I'm sorry we haven't really heard from you at the end, but I'm sure you won't mind too much. But thank you for your time. Appreciate everyone hanging around and watching. I know it's been quite a long session, but it's been very informative as well. So I was keen to just carry that on rather than cut everyone off. So thank you for watching today. Really appreciate your time. There's all different people saying hi from different countries, from all over the world. It's great to see such a broad nationalities interested in psychology. And if you have any questions, visit that website there. You've got online.liverpool.ac.uk/contact. All your details will be shared with the team at the University of Liverpool Online, so they will reach out to you. And if you have any questions at all, like I said at the start of the webinar, if you can remember that far back already, it's webinars@postgradsolutions.com. Ben, Victoria, Ruth, and Sarah, thanks for your time, and we look forward to seeing you again in 2026.